Hi, everybody. It was a great introduction. I do like to walk my dog on the beach. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a minute. Um, Here we go. So forgive me as I move. Lauren, are you able to see the insights reports as I'm?
Yes,
Excellent.
looks great.
Excellent. All right. So housekeeping part is out of the way. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Thank you again, everybody, because I know it looks like it's a beautiful day here on the East Coast. I hope it is as well for where you are. Today, we are going to talk about data. So with your current subscriptions for Enterprise or for any teachers who may be on, you have access to a lot of powerful data already in your Edulastic Enterprise. I will do a quick recap on that. However, what we're here to talk about even more today is how do we bring those other data sources that we have all together? We know data can be powerful. Let's put it in an easy to find location within the Edulastic platform so that your third-party data, such as your state test scores, maybe your map, your iReady, whatever resources you have, if you bring it together, I think it'll be easier to use so that you can really drill down and analyze how you can best use the resources you have available, identify gaps in learning achievements, and really pinpoint how to best use your resources. And as you're having more of those data-driven conversations with your teachers and even with your students, having it all in an easy to locate location, I think will be helpful. So that's my goal today, is just to give you a brief overview introduction of the data reports that you would have available with Data Warehouse. Again, this is an add-on feature to your current enterprise subscription. So whether you're using us at a district level or at a building level, that's a conversation that afterwards we can continue to have. Like Lauren mentioned, though, because I had everybody here, I did want to do a quick recap on the powerful data that you already have available to you, in case you don't realize some of the additional tools already here. For people familiar with Edulastic, of course, this is going to look very familiar. I'm on the Insights tab, and you'll notice this is where all of the reports that I have with my enterprise accounts are. If I'm a teacher, I have all the same reports except only for the students that are rostered to me. You'll notice here this custom report. Don't look for it. You don't have it yet unless you have our data warehouse. That is the add-on feature. That's where we're going to spend the majority of our time. But for right now, the two quick things I wanted to mention on the current reports that you have on your single assessment report. This is such a powerful report. There's so much amazing data in here. It's a great way to introduce a data-driven conversation with some of those teachers who perhaps aren't as used to looking at data. With using Edulastic, they have access to that real-time insight with the live class board. If they're using our Peer Deck or GoGuardian teachers, they have all this wonderful information available to them in real time. But after the fact, it is nice to be able to do for your administrators a cohort analysis, or for your teachers to be able to see and drill down a little bit more. The one thing I wanted to mention here, this subgroup performance, this is where I'm going to recommend, if you don't already share demographic information with Edulastic, by all means you can, because then if you want to identify and look at perhaps your students who are English language learners, and you want to be able to see, are there achievement gaps with our free and reduced lunch students, our students who are English language learners in comparison to the rest of the district. If you have that information in Edulastic, you can also have that in this report. This will become relevant when I talk a little bit more about the custom reports. The other thing I wanted to quickly show you here in the performance by students is there are various ways within Edulastic to be able to group students. So once you've identified some students that may need some remediation, you can put them into a student grouping in Edulastic. And again, always reach out to us. Couple of other quick things to mention. Of course, your assessment over time or your multiple assessment reports. Again, if you've identified a group of students for remediation and you want to compare how they're doing from, say, your fall benchmark to your midterm benchmark, this is a great report for that. Your students' mastery report, again, progress for standards. We know that students are coming back at various levels from last year. I think monitoring the progress of standards over time will be important, so I wanted to point that out. And of course, your student profile report. For the administrators on the call, this is where I like to mention the full power of using Edulastic across all of your subjects. Perhaps you're using it mainly for math and ELA. The more information that you're using Edulastic, whether you're using us just for benchmarks, it's also a very powerful teacher tool. The more information within Edulastic, the more holistic view you're going to see of those students. So as your students or as you're having meetings with perhaps prepping for an IEP meeting or with a parent, or when you're trying to identify students who we should recommend for honors courses or for additional support during the summer, whatever place you're looking for data, that's a nice report to look into. And as you and your team, you probably at the administrator level are used to looking at data, as your teachers become more comfortable looking at data, and as you're having more powerful data-driven conversations, that's where adding on that data warehouse feature that we're talking about today can be so powerful. And that's where we're saying, share that data with Edulastic, and we will bring it into the custom reports field is what it shows right now. So forgive me as I move my boxes around on Zoom. I know there's a lot going on this screen. My goal today, again, is to kind of give that high level overview. I'm going to focus on some of the things that I mentioned before, those state tests. So I'm going to give the example of the SBAC that we have here. A lot of our schools that we partner with use NWEA Map. So I'm going to highlight that. Again, let's look at benchmarks versus our state test, and then let's bring it all together in an assessment performance summary. But you'll notice these other reports listed here, the SAT, for instance. You think, do I need to look at that data? Why not bring it all in? Because it's powerful information that as your students are preparing, maybe your AP students, they really want to get a 3, 4, or 5 on those end of year AP exams, of course, but perhaps they're not doing great on the SATs in general. Maybe we need to give them some additional support for a standardized test. If we're having a conversation and we want to quickly look at maybe the DIBELS information we have or the Lexile level of a student, again, it saves you and your team time to having to look up various sources of where do I find this information? What's my login? What was that website name again? It's all here for you. But let's take a deeper dive into one of these. So I'm going to take again a look just at kind of an overall report. This is an example of a state test report. I hope you can see this. I know it's a little bit small, but I am going to try and hone in a little bit where I can. With Edulastic, again, it's designed to be easy to quickly go through the levels of details. You'll notice you'll have at least 4 levels of granular data to look through. So your district administrator, if you're a superintendent on the team, you may want to take a look at this as an aggregate, and of course as a building principal, and then again at the teacher level, you'll have that in various, your teachers will only have access to who they're rostered. Now, again, I know there's a lot going on in this screen, but I am looking here at my state test for ELA. And again, I can look across the academic school years. And again, given that I'm a district administrator, perhaps I'm looking at just comparing a few of my middle schools. So this report is all in one location for you. I can easily see that at my Kennedy Middle School, for instance, in the 3rd grade, and I know there's a lot of colors going on, but as you get used to the colors, as you highlight over it, you'll see that I can see that 52% of my students at Kennedy Middle in the 3rd grade have met the standard, 47% have exceeded. That's phenomenal. As I go down here to my King Middle School, I'm not seeing that same level of mastery. So I immediately have pinpointed from the information from the state test scores where I need to focus some of my resources. Combine that with that Edulastic data of using perhaps our Smart Start diagnostics or anything like that, you're already getting a truer picture of how a student or how a school may need some resources. And again, remember I mentioned that subgroup information earlier. That's where I said it might be relevant if you're looking, if you need to do any reporting on race, for instance, that subgroup population is here. How are our English language learners doing, again, in comparison to the rest of the district on our standardized state test? Anybody who's used to looking at data will immediately spot that this data is kind of fake and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So forgive me on that, but it will be easily, I think it'll be more noticeable with your own real life data as to what students are in general. Are they exceeding? Are they falling below the standards or the state test, given the different subgroup population? And more importantly, what resources do I have available to give to that team to ensure that those students' needs are met? Same thing here. I can drill down. So again, this is when you put your kind of department head hat on, or maybe your teacher hat, and you are starting to identify students, and you want to be able to quickly look at the student information. Again, that's where I'm going down a bit more granular into that student view of my state test. Remember, this is all in conjunction with having a data-driven conversation with the rest of the data points that you already have within Edulastic. So again, I know this is a little hard to see. Let me play around with my computer a little bit. So I see Aline here is where her challenges are. She's having some challenges where she's below the standard with the data analysis. She's near the standard here. But let's look at Alexander. He has completely different needs. So while they may show up initially on needing some additional support, by going into this data a little bit more granularly, we can immediately identify how to help those students on an individualized basis, which again is so important in today's world. So I won't go through all of this, obviously, just I'm going to go through a couple of other reports to give you. But again, what often comes up in the conversations is, of course, you want to look at year over year data when it comes to your state test. So if, again, we understand last year some schools perhaps did not have as much state test, if you did want to provide some previous years with Edulastic, by all means, you can do that. And here I'm looking at the academic year between the 17-18 versus the 18-19. And again, I'm looking at if I'm looking at my third grade, I can see I've gone from 30% meeting the standards to 15%. Obviously, we make this a little bit more noticeable because you're immediately going to know that and want to address it. Okay, I'm going to go back again. All I've done is, again, go back to my custom reports tab. That was looking at an example of a state test. Those were the smarter balance for those Common Core schools. I mentioned again, let's take a quick peek at a map. Again, if your map or NWEA map provides nice reports for you, iReady, any of those third-party data sources, but here we can put this into a report for you. Again, like anything, you have that level of granular data. Again, you'll be able to search by school year, by schools, by subject areas. And again, obviously with MAP, we want to see growth. I'm happy to report that we are seeing growth here. You can see October all the way into January. When I go into details, again, I know this is a little challenging to see. But again, MAP is so great at identifying skills that perhaps our students need to work on, where the other Edulastic reports are showing mastery over standards. Let's not forget about those skill sets. So if, again, stats and prob, that would definitely be me. If we want to identify students that may need some additional support in that, we quickly pinpoint those students. And here are my students that I think need some additional support. They're all listed here. Remember when I mentioned earlier about being able to use student groups within Edulastic? You can identify these students quickly, put them into a student group, and provide some additional resources to them, whether you're giving them more practice exams in Edulastic, whether you're using some of our additional tools that we have available, such as our differentiated math practice with Spark, or even if you're using our playlist feature, which is a great feature that is also available, and you want to provide some additional resources to the students that way. If you have any questions on that, you can always reach out to us, but there is a nice way to easily assign practice assessments, but also supporting video tutorials and things like that. Okay, not to get too off topic, I just love to talk about all the various ways of Edulastic. Again, remember that cohort analysis is so important at the aggregate level, but you can, of course, drill down by your schools, by your teacher, by that subgroup population again. And of course, with MAP, of course, there's growth over time is so important. Oops, I'm sorry, I thought I clicked. Again, I don't want to go too deep into the reports because I know we can kind of go into the weeds with them. I do want to just quickly go over to another report that I think will be very powerful to help in identifying resources for your team. So with this, or resources that your team may need. What I've just clicked into is a report that we put together where we're comparing a summative assessment. So let's say it's our state test versus the benchmarks we're giving within Edulastic. So again, I'm looking here at my grade 7 math, my academic school year by school. And as I go down, I am able to see, let me bring this a little bit larger. Again, for Adelia, her grade 6 math, she was proficient. That is fantastic. This was her average score. How was she doing on the benchmarks? And here again, we can identify how she did. So where my data is not, I think this is a better example here. So this particular student is at the basic level of proficiency, and here are how they're scoring. So again, when I highlight over it, it will quickly show me the student identification numbers, of course, the scaled score, the raw score, and the deeper information that I may need to identify. So those identifying characteristics are right there for you too. And like anything, you want to be able to look a little bit more at the granular level. So this was the report I thought I was on, forgive me. So again, for Adelia here, even though she was proficient, where does she maybe need some additional support? She's doing great in geometry, but expressions and equations, let's give her some additional support. So as she also is preparing for state tests, she can be more successful in demonstrating her true knowledge and mastery. I'm just looking away just to kind of quickly look at time. I want to respect our time and make sure that we have time for questions. So I'm going to show one more report where we bring it all together. And that is what I mentioned before, the assessment performance summary. So I've showed us kind of the power of the reports already within Edulastic. And from there, also, I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the reports that the schools that have already used us for their data warehouse needs have asked for, such as a summative assessment report, the NWEA report, and of course, using Edulastic for benchmarks. If you're not already using Edulastic for benchmarks, by all means, reach out to us. We're happy to show you with your enterprise accounts how you can quickly create your own benchmarks and roll them out as a common assessment. Or of course, we have our Quest products, which are we customize and create benchmark assessments just for your school and based on your curriculum path. And we partner with other things. But here again, I can quickly search by my students here on the left, and I can quickly identify, you'll notice here is my summative. In this example, it's the Ohio State test. So anybody on the Ohio team today, thank you. We have some great customers in Ohio. And again, if you're using Edulastic for your benchmarks, that information is here and your NWEA map is here. So this is a report we put together to bring all these three together to help identify needs. And again, you'll notice here's the state test from May 2020, and then of course, across the academic school year for the 2021 school year last year. That was so challenging. Any data reports that we have from that, I think will be very helpful in anticipating how to help these students going into the 21-22 school year. And with that, I'm going to go back to this. For the districts that are our large districts, or districts that are very used to using data and want to be able to create your own reports, that is something we can have a further conversation about our custom report builder. But just know that Edulastic, we are here to work with you. So if, as you share that data with us, which you will via a secure file, like you'll download your data into a CSV file and secure it, and we'll give you a path to securely share that data with us. If there are certain reports that you need to see that data in a certain view, we'll work with your team for that as well. And with that, I feel like I haven't taken a breath, so I'm going to stop and open it up to questions. Lauren, how am I doing on time?
That was great, Jill. You're great on time. And the one question that I was going to ask you actually just covered was really what the process is about how to, if a school or a district has those assessments that they want to bring into the data warehouse, what does that process look like? You covered about how they come to our team and they and we'll work with them to get those assessments and those data that they have properly into our warehouse.
Right. So, and that's
which is wonderful.
It is. Of course, it'll be secure. Student data is, of course, so important to be securely transferred. So the next steps would be you would reach out to our team. If you are already an enterprise customer, reach out to your customer success manager or to us or to Lauren and I, and we will get you in touch with having perhaps a deeper conversation with really what data are you looking to share, what's your time frame, and have a conversation from there, and then set you up with some secure transfer protocols to transfer information over.